You know, whenever people ask me about the power of presence, I tell them this: it's not about being in every room. It's about leaving a piece of yourself in every mind you walk away from. Today, I want you to feel that fire inside you, the one that reminds you that you don't need to chase validation. You create it. You don't need to run after people. You just need to become someone unforgettable. Someone whose absence speaks even louder than their presence. I've learned through my journey across continents, cultures, and chaos that the secret psychology of being missed has nothing to do with perfection. It's about authenticity. It's about walking with a confidence that isn't loud, but rooted. It's about showing up with intention and knowing that when you leave, your energy carries on. When you embrace who you are fully, unapologetically, people don't just remember you, they feel you. So today, I want to talk to you about stepping into that mindset. Not because the world needs another flawless hero, but because it needs you raw, real, powerful. When you elevate your self-worth, your boundaries, your voice, something magical happens. People don't miss the idea of you, they miss the impact of you. Holding your energy with confidence begins long before you enter a room. It starts in the quiet moments, when no one is watching, when you're alone with your thought, when you choose to believe in yourself even on the days it feels easier to shrink. Confidence isn't the absence of doubt. It's the decision to rise above it. It's the subtle but powerful shift from, I hope they like me, to, I know who I am. When you hold your energy with that kind of certainty, you don't have to announce your worth. People sense it. They adjust to it. That presence becomes magnetic, and it lingers long after you've walked away. You see, most people spend their time trying to fit in, trying not to disturb the air around them. But the people who make an impact, the ones who are remembered, the ones who are missed, are the people who own their space, not by being loud or overpowering, but by being grounded. Grounded energy is calm, steady, self-assured. It's not threatened by someone else's shine, nor is it diluted by insecurity. When you walk into a room centered in who you are, you walk in with a quiet confidence that pulls people toward you. They feel safe in your presence, they feel curious about you, and they feel your absence when you're gone. Holding your energy with confidence also means not giving it away too easily. We live in a world where people constantly look for validation, approval, reassurance, applause. But when you rely on these things, your energy becomes scattered. People can sense when you're trying too hard. They can sense when your worth depends on their reaction. True confidence is when you don't perform for attention. You simply exist with intention. You don't need everyone to notice you. You just need to stay connected with your own essence. And that kind of restraint, that ability to stay composed, creates a powerful contrast in a world full of noise. People remember the person who doesn't beg for recognition because their presence speaks for itself. Another part of holding your energy with confidence is knowing that silence is not weakness. Silence, when used intentionally, becomes strength. You don't need to respond to everything. You don't need to justify yourself. You don't need to explain your worth. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is remain unshaken. When someone expects a reaction and you offer calm, when someone tests your boundaries and you remain poised, you create an emotional gravity. People start to understand that your peace is not something they can disturb. That emotional discipline becomes unforgettable because it's rare. People miss rare energy. Confidence also shows in the way you treat yourself. When you speak kindly to yourself, when you set standards for the people you allow in your life, when you honor your goals, your rest, your dreams, that self-respect radiates. It communicates to others how they should treat you. And when you carry that level of self-respect consistently, people don't just admire it, they feel compelled to rise to it. They remember the version of themselves they became around you. And that feeling is what makes them miss you later. It's not just you they long for. It's the elevated energy they felt in your presence. Most importantly, holding your energy with confidence means understanding that you are not for everyone. And that is your power. When you stop chasing acceptance, you become selective about where your energy goes. And when you preserve your energy instead of scattering it everywhere, it becomes more potent. more refined, more impactful. People begin to recognize that your attention is meaningful, that your presence is intentional. And intentional presence is something people crave. Creating distance with purpose is not about playing games or manipulating emotion. It's about understanding your own value deeply enough to know that you don't need to be constantly available to matter. Distance becomes powerful when it's intentional, when it comes from a place of strength rather than fear. Most people underestimate the importance of space in relationships, in friendships, even in professional dynamics. But space is where clarity lies. It's where people get to feel the contrast between your presence and your absence. When you intentionally create that space, you allow others the opportunity to recognize the impact you make, something they cannot fully perceive when you are always within reach. Purposeful distance begins with self-awareness. You have to know what drains you, what inspires you, what strengthens your sense of identity. When you constantly surround yourself with others without pausing to recalibrate who you are, you lose pieces of yourself little by little. Distance allows you to return to your own center. It allows you to reconnect with your thoughts, your boundaries, your emotional needs. And when you return to people after that kind of self-grounding, you return with clarity and strength instead of desperation or dependency. That shift in energy is felt immediately. People don't miss someone who clings, they miss someone who stands strong on their own. There is a certain elegance in stepping back with intention. When you are not rushing to respond to every message, not showing up for every call, not inserting yourself into every moment, you give your presence a higher value. You create contrast. Human beings are wired to desire what feels scarce, meaningful, and not excessively accessible. But distance only works when it comes from authenticity, not from punishment, not from ego, not from trying to appear elusive. It must come from protecting your peace and honoring your own rhythm. When people sense that your distance is rooted in self-respect, they feel drawn toward you instead of pushed away. Purposeful distance also teaches others how to appreciate you. When you give too much too quickly, people begin to take your energy for granted. Not intentionally, it's simply human nature. But when you step back, when you give them the opportunity to feel the quiet in your absence, they begin to reflect on what you brought into their lives. Maybe it was emotional stability. Maybe it was encouragement. Maybe it was laughter or confidence or truth. Whatever it was, they begin to notice how the energy shifts without you. And that awareness becomes the foundation of being missed. People cannot appreciate what they never had a chance to lose. Distance also protects your emotional boundaries. It gives you the space to evaluate your connections clearly. Are they giving back to you? Are they valuing you? Are they respecting the energy you invest? When you are too close, it becomes difficult to see things objectively. But when you step back, even slightly, you gain perspective. That perspective helps you determine who aligns with your growth and who drains your spirit. And the people who genuinely value, you will make their appreciation known when they feel that shift in your presence. Another dimension of purposeful distance is the confidence it communicates. Anyone can stay present out of fear. The fear of losing someone. The fear of being forgotten. The fear of not being enough. But it takes strength to trust that your presence is powerful even when you are not physically there. It takes confidence to believe that what you bring to the table resonates beyond the moment. People sense that kind of self-trust. It makes them perceive you as someone grounded, someone who knows their worth, someone whose time and energy are meaningful. Intentional distance doesn't disconnect you from people. It refines the connection. It gives room for longing, for curiosity, for reflection. It allows relationships of any kind to breathe instead of suffocate. And when people finally reach out, when they express that they missed you, what they are really saying is that they felt the difference between your presence and your silence. Standing firm in your boundaries begins with understanding that boundaries are not walls. They are declarations of self-respect. They are lines drawn not to keep people out, but to protect the space where your peace, your clarity, and your identity live. Most people hesitate to set boundaries because they fear rejection, conflict, or being misunderstood. But the truth is, people who are respected, remembered, and missed are often the ones who carry themselves with a clear sense of what they will and will not allow. Boundaries shape how others experience you and how they value you. When you communicate your limits with confidence, You create an environment where your presence is both meaningful and intentional. Boundaries are powerful because they teach others how to treat you. Without them, people don't know where your emotional edges are, and they begin to overstep without even realizing it. When you are always available, always agreeable, always saying yes while your heart screams no, you unintentionally communicate that your needs are secondary. But when you stand firm, when you say no with grace, when you protect your time and energy, you signal that your well-being matters. And that signal shifts the entire dynamic. People start to approach you with more care, more respect, and more gratitude. They realize that your presence is a choice, not an obligation. That realization is what makes them miss you when you're not there. Standing firm in your boundaries also means refusing to compromise your values just to maintain harmony. There will always be moments when bending seems easier, when you feel tempted to shrink your truth to keep the peace. But the cost of that compromise is always higher than the temporary comfort it brings. Every time you abandon your boundaries, you dilute your sense of self. And when you dilute yourself, you fade into the background of your own life. But when you hold your ground, even through discomfort, you strengthen your self-worth. People remember those who stand for something. They remember the ones who are clear, consistent, and unapologetically authentic. Boundaries also build emotional safety, not just for you, but for the people around you. When others know where you stand, when they understand your limits, when they see that you communicate with honesty instead of resentment, they begin to trust you more deeply. They know that you won't say one thing and feel another. They know you won't overextend yourself and then withdraw in silence. Your clarity creates stability, and stability is rare. People naturally gravitate toward those who bring certainty into chaotic spaces. And when that certainty is absent, they feel the void it leaves behind. Another aspect of standing firm in your boundaries is the courage to walk away when those boundaries are repeatedly disrespected. Not every connection will honor the limits you set, and not everyone will appreciate the strength it takes to uphold them. But choosing yourself is never selfish. It's necessary. When you walk away from situations that drain your spirit or diminish your worth, you demonstrate a level of self-respect that resonates deeply. Even those who fail to honor your boundaries will feel your absence, not because you punished them, but because you upheld a standard they couldn't meet. And standards create a memory. People remember someone who valued themselves enough to choose peace over attachment. Boundaries also free you from the trap of over-explaining. You don't need to justify your needs, your space, or your decision. You don't owe anyone a detailed explanation for why you're protecting your heart or your time. When you stop over-explaining, you reclaim your power. You shift from seeking permission to asserting your rightful autonomy, and that quiet assertion becomes part of your presence. It lingers in people's minds, making your absence felt because they recognize the depth and integrity behind your actions. Standing firm in your boundaries teaches the world who you are before you say a word. It shapes your relationships, elevates your self-worth, and amplifies your energy. And when your energy is strong, centered, and protected, people don't just notice you, they remember you. Showing authenticity, not perfection, begins with the courage to be seen as you truly are. In a world that constantly encourages people to curate, polish, and filter their identity, authenticity becomes a rare kind of power. The kind that stays with people long after you leave the room. Perfection may impress someone for a moment, but authenticity connects with them at a level that's emotional, human, and unforgettable. When you show up without the mask, without the need to appear flawless, you give others permission to breathe, to relax, to trust. And that trust is what makes your presence meaningful and your absence felt. Authenticity is not about oversharing or exposing every part of your life. It's about alignment. It's about making sure that who you are on the outside reflects who you are on the inside. When you speak, move, and make choices from that place of inner truth, people can feel it. They may not be able to articulate it, but they sense the harmony in your energy. In a world full of pretense and performance, someone who is simply real stands out. They linger in people's minds because authenticity leaves an emotional imprint. It doesn't need to shout. It resonates. Perfection, on the other hand, creates distance. It builds walls Because people don't connect to flawless surfaces, they connect to humanity. When you try to perfect every word you speak or every step you take, you stop showing up as a person and start showing up as an image. And images may be admired, but they're not missed. People don't miss the polished front. They miss the genuine soul behind it. They miss the laughter that wasn't scripted, the vulnerability that wasn't forced, the sincerity that wasn't rehearsed. Authenticity allows people to feel you, not just see you. Showing authenticity also means embracing your imperfect moments without shame. The times you stumbled, the decisions you reconsidered, the fears you overcame. These aren't weaknesses. These are the threads that make your story. When you share parts of that journey naturally, without dramatizing it or hiding it, people feel closer to you. They see strength wrapped in humility. They see someone who learned, not someone who pretended. And because most people are silently trying to figure out their own flaws, seeing someone who owns theirs becomes comforting. It becomes memorable. Authenticity also shows through consistency. When your actions match your words, when your energy matches your intention, when you show up the same way, regardless of the audience, you become someone people can trust. And trust is one of the highest forms of emotional value you can create. It makes people safe around you. It makes them feel seen, heard, and respected. And when someone makes you feel that way, you don't simply notice their absence, you long for it. Because trust doesn't just vanish, it leaves a gap that's hard to fill. To be authentic, you must also detach from the need for universal approval. Not everyone will like who you truly are. And that's not only normal, it's freeing. When you stop shaping yourself to match everyone's expectations, your true voice emerges. Your unique personality takes the lead. Your individuality stops hiding behind conformity. And the right people, the ones meant for your journey, feel drawn to that truth. Authenticity attracts alignment, not applause. And alignment is what creates lasting impressions. Authenticity requires emotional courage. It means admitting when something doesn't feel right. Speaking up when you've been silent too long, choosing honesty over comfort, expressing joy without suppressing it, and showing vulnerability without fearing judgment. It means being willing to be misunderstood temporarily, so you can be understood deeply later. People may forget perfection, because it blends with everything else they've seen, but they don't forget authenticity, because it reflects something they're searching for in themselves. Leaving emotional footprints, not noise, is about understanding the difference between impact and attention. Noise is loud, immediate, and forgettable. It's the kind of presence that demands to be noticed but disappears the moment you walk away. Emotional footprints, on the other hand, are subtle but powerful. They stay with people. They echo in their minds long after the conversation has ended, long after the moment has passed. When you leave emotional footprints, you create a connection that isn't based on performance or effort, but on resonance, a feeling that lingers even in your absence. Emotional footprints form when people feel something real around you. Not excitement manufactured by dramatic behavior. Not admiration forced through perfection. But something genuine, meaningful, and deeply human. This could be the way you listen. Not just hearing words, but understanding what lies beneath them. It could be the way you make someone feel valued, respected, or safe. It might be the quiet confidence in your voice, the sincerity in your eyes, or the steadiness in your energy. People remember how you made them feel seen, not how you tried to impress them. When someone feels understood in your presence, they will inevitably feel your absence. Leaving emotional footprints also means being intentional with your words. Words have weight. And when spoken with care, clarity, and truth, they stay with people. You don't need to speak endlessly or try to fill every silence. Sometimes a single sentence, spoken with honesty, creates more impact than an entire speech crafted for validation. The way you phrase something, the nuance you offer, the empathy you show, these small moments create emotional anchors in someone's memory. They become the moments someone replays when you're not around. Noise fades quickly, but a sincere word can echo for years. Another part of leaving emotional footprints is offering presence instead of performance. Many people mistake attention for connection. They think being the loudest, the busiest, the most dramatic will make them unforgettable. But real memory is rooted in presence, in the ability to be fully there with someone, even for a brief moment. When you put away distractions, when you look someone in the eyes, when you offer your full attention, without rushing ahead or thinking of your reply, You give them something rare. People miss presence because it's scarce in today's world. They miss the feeling of being prioritized, even if only for a short time. Emotional footprints are also created through your energy, the calmness you bring, the hope you find even in difficult moments, the steadiness you offer without needing to control anything. People often don't remember the details of what you said, but they remember the emotional state they were in when they were with you. If they felt stronger, braver, more understood, more grounded, more alive, then that is the footprint you left behind. And later, when they feel the absence of that energy, they realize what you meant to them. Leaving emotional footprints also requires emotional integrity. When your actions match your intentions, when you follow through on your word, when you apologize sincerely, when you forgive without bitterness, you create a sense of reliability. People trust you because you show up with consistency. Trust is one of the deepest emotional imprints you can leave. People will miss someone they trust far more than someone who merely entertains them. Trust creates emotional memory. Noise just fills space. Another dimension is the courage to show vulnerability. Not dramatic vulnerability performed for sympathy, but genuine openness that signals authenticity and emotional depth. When you share a truth that comes from the heart, when you reveal a lesson you learned, when you express gratitude sincerely, people resonate with that honesty. Vulnerability touches the human part of someone that longs to be understood. When you show yours, you awaken theirs. And that connection becomes unforgettable. Leaving emotional footprints is ultimately about living with intention. It's about showing up as someone who listens deeply, speaks truthfully, connects sincerely, and acts with heart. These qualities shape experiences, shape memories, and shape how people feel when you're gone.